Now, teachers and principals are shocked by the government's decision to axe schools' obligation to give effect to the Treaty of Waitangi. The government had been moving to change the emphasis on the requirement in the Education Act, but on Tuesday announced it would remove it altogether. Now, we're joined by Labour's Carmel Sepuloni this week and National's Nicola Willis, who is literally walking into the studio as we speak, perfectly timed. Welcome to you both. I'll come to you first, Carmel Sepuloni, while Nicola Willis gets settled. Why is it necessary for schools to, or why was it necessary for schools to have to put that emphasis on the treaty? Should they not have the choice?
What was wrong with it, Corin? You know, we're Aotearoa, we're 2025. There's a general recognition and respect for te treaty. We know that it has practical implications and that should apply to our education system, particularly given the inequities that we see for Māori children in education. So why has this government moved on this?
The argument was that it wasn't helping. It was a burden. They need to be focused on education. This was perhaps some sort of a distraction that they could that's where their focus needed to be.
I don't think that they've produced any evidence to show that it was counterproductive to supporting our young people with their educational achievement. I mean, keep in mind here, our schools have had so much turmoil over the last 2 years. I was just in Kelston Boys. There's been the issue with an attempted takeover from an organisation trying to make them a charter school. They've had the mumbled, bungled schools lunches in schools program. They are all going through the turmoil of this failed curriculum project undertaken by the minister. And now her big thing is to get rid of their obligation to the Treaty of Waitangi. It makes no sense.
Okay.
It's not going to
Let me come to Nicola Willis. The treaty is broadly a partnership, isn't it?
Well, responsibility for discharging the Crown's responsibilities under the treaty rests with the government. It's not the job of parents and volunteers on school boards to interpret that. It has to be enacted
through school boards.
Well,
the point I want to make here, I just want to answer that question. It is a partnership. You would agree? If it's a partnership, isn't there an obligation to adhere to that?
So here are the obligations that continue to sit with schools. They need to seek to achieve equitable outcomes for Māori students. They need to provide for teaching and learning in Te Reo Māori, and they need to ensure that the school's policies and practices reflect New Zealand's cultural diversity. So amorphous statements about partnership are actually pretty unhelpful. When you're a volunteer on a board and what you're trying to do is ensure the kids in your school are learning how to read, write and do maths, are turning up to school, are progressing. That's what we want school boards focused on, not interpreting nebulous concepts which actually sit with the government.
Well, is it unhelpful, and this is what the principals were arguing this morning, if the school board is being lobbied and pressured by an extremist group to ditch its Māori content?
Well, it's there in law. They have to provide for teaching and learning in Te Reo Māori, and they need to make sure that they're pursuing equal outcomes for Māori students. So that's the practical implications of the change that we've made. And I think it would be a real stretch to say that when the last government put the Treaty of Waitangi into the board's responsibilities back in 2020, that we saw any meaningful, practical change for Māori students. In fact, it's under our watch, our government, that actually for the first time we've seen literacy and numeracy results for Māori students improve. That's where the rubber hits the road.
I mean, there is a choice element here. What is the problem?
I want to reflect back to comments that Nicola made at the mood of the boardroom debate, where she said that if she wasn't part of a coalition when asked, what would be the one thing that she would have done differently? And she said it would certainly be with respect to all things Māori.
That's not what I said, Carmel.
Divisiveness. She implied the divisiveness that's been caused as part of the policies that they've implemented. I think deep down inside that you know that this is the wrong thing to do, Nicola.
Absolutely not.
It's a matter of the tail wagging the dog again, with David Seymour and the ACT Party calling the shots, and a reflection of the weak leadership of not only the Prime Minister, but also his ministers, including Erica Stanford.
Okay.
Well, that's all a lot of faff. What we're focused on is Māori kids learning and achieving at school. And your Treaty of Waitangi clause may have been a virtue signal that made you feel good, but it made not an iota of difference for the kids whose learning we're focused on. We want school boards focused on learning kids. Hey, look, I'll let you have your go. I'll let you have your go.
I'll come back to you.
And look, and what I want to say is that we as a government made this decision because our primary focus in education is achievement. Your primary focus may be a whole host of other cultural and social goals. That's for you to explain. Our focus is on kids learning at school so that they can get good jobs and contribute to our communities.
Quick response to that.
Isn't it interesting that the government, including Nicola, Luxon and Erica, keep saying that they have all the answers to address the needs of Māori kids in education, whereas Māori themselves, iwi leaders, Māori educational experts, members of the Māori community are coming out strongly and saying, government, stop. You've got this wrong. But the arrogance of this government to continue along this path despite Māori themselves telling the government they've got it wrong.
Okay, let's move on to unemployment. Nicola Willis, as Finance Minister, are you worried you're going to get the worst unemployment number in 9 years today?
Well, look, I don't play a guessing game with the numbers. It does concern me, and there's ever New Zealanders who want a job and are unable to find it. And of course, unemployment is always the last thing to correct itself when an economy is recovering. What we know is that in the last set of results, we were still tracking at an unemployment number that was lower than had been forecast prior to the election, with 158,000 people versus the 167,000
What about that utilisation rate?
forecast.
There's a lot of people who could do more work if it was available. They just simply have given up looking.
That's right. And so that's why we've got to focus on the solutions, which is actually growing the economy, ensuring that businesses are confident about investing, which is why we've done our investment boost tax relief, ensuring we've got those $7 billion worth of infrastructure projects kicking out the door before Christmas, signing up to overseas trade
All right, well,
agreements.
Let me just put you on
Those
the spot
things are
here.
all about...
Are you seeing, and I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it, are you seeing green shoots? Are you confident we are in a recovery?
I'm very confident we're in a recovery. All of the economists I speak to think that the economy is currently growing and that growth will accelerate over the coming months. And that is backed up by the stories I'm hearing in our community. Okay. Doesn't make it easy, doesn't mean that it hasn't been a really tough time for a lot of people.
Carmel Sepuloni, what would Labor do to try and get the job market going again if you had that opportunity?
So as we have said, we wouldn't have paused the building and infrastructure projects that this government paused.
Sure, but what would you do now?
Resulting in 20,000 fewer jobs in the construction and infrastructure industry. We wouldn't have put a hiring freeze on the health sector, which has resulted in things like graduate nurses not having the jobs. I know you want to know what we would do now, Corin, but what we wouldn't have done is a reflection of where we would have put our focus. We would have focused on making sure, and we will moving forward, that we have those building and construction projects moving forward. We're going to put a focus on our health sector, and we're certainly going to fund it adequately so that we don't have hiring.
Well, that was really telling, wasn't it? Because actually asked for ideas. Asked for ideas. She didn't have a single one. But what we do know is Labor's policies out the gate are to impose an additional tax across our entire economy. I tell you what, that won't create. That won't create a single job. We've had that Labor's policy is to consider a higher inflation rate, which would, of course, add to price increases and the cost of living.
Nicola.
Well, you're not coming up with answers. You're great at moaning, not so good at answers.
Let me jump in here a second. Firstly, let me jump in here a second on the capital gains tax. Why is this tax across the whole economy? It's a narrow capital gains tax at property speculators.
That is true. And Nicola,
how is that possibly across the entire economy?
Misrepresenting the tax.
Because it is very difficult, it's actually almost impossible to separate a business from the premise in which it operates. They're almost inextricably linked.
They lease.
To quote the words of the tax working group, inextricably linked, because actually a lot of businesses, whether it's your local mechanic, whether it's your GP clinic, whether it's your local dairy, they own their premises. So when they go to sell...
Is my understanding, that's what the tax experts have told us.
Well, many of them own, and those who lease from an owner whose asking rate on their rent depends on the return that they're getting for their investment. Okay. And if they know that they're going to pay significant tax when they sell,
let me come back to Carmel Sepuloni to answer that. But hang on. Give me some policies. It's a fair question which are targeting growth and jobs. Come back to that.
Yeah, so I mean, we were really clear with the Future Fund that the point of that is to actually steer New Zealand towards investing in New Zealand businesses. If we can invest in New Zealand businesses, then we've got more of a chance of being able to create the jobs that New Zealanders need. Our CGT tax, Nicola, you need to stop misrepresenting that. But a big part of the reason we're doing it is so that people can start actually investing in kind of productive parts of the sector. We know investment property, where people are putting all of their money into, say, residential investment property.
Okay, let me jump in here because I was tough on
also,
Nicola on this.
It's not a productive part of
What would
the
people
economy.
invest in instead of property? Give me some things that are
Well, we
a
want
trusted blue chip type investment where a mum and dad investor will feel comfortable.
I'm not going to choose winners here in terms of the businesses that they might choose to invest in. But the reality is we haven't had the landscape.
Why not?
Not because we've been about investing in property, Corin.
No, but I mean, why not give some people ideas? Because the people will be thinking, well, what do I invest in then?
Because I'm not the investment advisor, but we want to open up opportunities for New Zealanders to invest in New Zealand businesses, and that is going to be considered, or more likely to be considered, when you change the kind of balance around what is possible here. So I'm really excited, and actually the feedback that we've got on CGT has been overwhelmingly positive. And Nicola, you need to remember 9 out of 10 New Zealanders will not have to pay this.
One thing New Zealanders might want to invest in is banks, Nicola Willis, because I see Westpac with another very strong, past $1 billion profit. You I think said they were having a cosy pillow fight in that sector. What are you doing in terms of competition, and are you concerned at all about profitability in the banks?
Yeah, I made those comments when the Commerce Commission released their recommendations of 15 significant steps they said the government should take to make our banking sector more competitive so that you, the bank user, get better options, better deals, cheaper fees. And so we are pursuing every single one of those recommendations, and it's the classic one, Corin, where it's not one silver bullet, it's lots of things. So it's giving more banks access to the exchange settlement system that the Reserve Bank runs. It's ensuring that we've addressed the capital adequacy ratios, which they say affect their ability to compete. It's letting more banks use, more financial institutions use the word banks. It's the deposit compensation scheme. So
has anything changed?
Numerous things. Well, we are making progress on all of those recommendations. We never said that it had been an overnight success, but I'll tell you what, Kiwi Bank, that is the bank that is growing fastest in New Zealand right now. And a large part of why it's growing is because it's lending to small businesses. And that's why I'm really keen to see it grow further and why we're pursuing more
from you,
capital
Carmel
for that
Sepuloni,
bank.
on the banks. Would Labor do something about competition in the banking sector?
Oh, I think this is a discussion still to be had, and I don't think we've nailed our policy yet, Corin.
Carmel Sepuloni from Labor, thank you very much. National's Nicola Willis, appreciate your time for our political panel.